very bad that Saturn, our Father Time, bestows upon us. That's why Saturn is depicted by Santa as rewarding the good children and gifts, and naughty children with rocks and coal in their stockings. He's stern but fair. Saturn is stern but fair. Okay. Saturn's value is that remember, he's the reaper. Well, what is it? What does the scripture say? What you sow, you reap. Who reaps it in your chart? It's Saturn. Okay.
Yeah, and I've heard that many people after their Saturn return, if they really engage with that energy properly and they open themselves up, they are rewarded afterwards.
Exactly. Good. Their discipline paid off.
Right.
Exactly. I remember the first class we had, you kept referring to as discipline as a positive thing in Saturn, and
Yeah, it's a purpose.
You're great. You're great. Having students like you is what makes it work for me. I mean, you see all the different layers of meanings. So, Saturn's value is that it provides growth, maturity, wisdom to the native. Most people dislike Saturn's influences because they're not light and chipper, youthful and happy influences, but they are extremely important in a chart because they provide perseverance through adversity, perspective after trauma. And these influences are the ones that allow us to make sense of tragedy and hardship.
I actually have it conjunct my ascendant, and it's interesting because I have such, strong ability to control myself. I have self-control, and I don't understand how other people don't. Like, I'll see someone say, I can't quit smoking, I can't do that. I just, no problem. I have extreme self-control. Like, I can push myself to do anything, and it's just very structured with Saturn. Yeah. And I don't know, it's just an interesting thing, like you're talking about it, how it's not light or chippery, but it's self-control. I think it helps people maintain that if they have it in their, if it's very strong in their chart, not afflicted, I suppose.
That's beautiful, yeah.
Cool.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, it does. It makes you very responsible.
Because my husband has that, and he's very responsible.
Yeah, because when I was young, everybody was drinking, doing drugs, and I'm like,
that's a gift.
And I was like, I don't feel to. Like, I just don't want to. It's just very strange energy. Like, but as I got older, I understand what Saturn does.
Yeah.
So it's
well, I tell people, the Shakespeare said it best, know thyself and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst then be false to any man. I believe we need to use our charts to if we're going to learn and teach others and learn this science, we need to know our own charts. Mm-hmm. People say, oh, it's so self-preoccupied with your own chart and all this stuff, and I say, no, that's the first level of understanding, is knowing yourself, then you'll know others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The more you know yourself, the more you're going to know others. That's how it works, okay? So the more you love yourself, the more you love others. I mean, think about it. And what makes for the strength of our being? Do I get strong by being nothing, doing nothing? Or do I get strong by challenging my body and myself to something? It's the same with the mental and emotional and and love. You have to be loving to get love, And we could go on anyway. So Saturn transits usually bring major changes, a reshuffling, a job loss that leads to a better job, a divorce that leads to a new freedom of new relationships. Saturn aspects create situations where we are forced to look at our own limitations and overcome them to succeed. Saturn in hard aspects to Mercury could produce speech impediments, slowness of speech. Saturn in soft aspect to Mercury could produce a voice with incredible charisma and authority.
Ooh, I have a trine between my...
Mercury and Saturn?
Yeah.
Do
you have a good voice?
I think so.
Yeah.
If I could ever, sometimes I get overexcited. That could be because of my Jupiter and Aries, though.
No, you have the ability to speak really well, actually. I don't know how to explain.
She does have that, doesn't she?
I feel that, yeah.
My
Good.
Mercury's in Pisces.
I feel like as soon as I heard you speak for the first time, I was like, whoa.
I love singing, too.
Yeah.
That's Saturn's and Mercury. That's good. See, now this is why we're learning so much. When you share and open up with your own charts and talk with your own,
And you're good with authority. You can get out of speed and take it apparently.
Well, yeah, so that I have Saturn in the second house with Sagittarius, trining Mercury and Pisces.
Yeah, Saturn and Sagittarius.
So the fourth house is in the mind and the home because...
Right. Mm-hmm. the home family.
Sometimes I think like the home within yourself too.
It is.
With the fourth house.
Psychological.
But notice how good she is at defining thoughts and ideas.
Yes.
She defines them very well, and she articulates them with precision. It's
Thank you.
Saturn,
And it's interesting because I was like a high school dropout. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because you were bored with it, quite frankly. Huh?
Because
Yeah.
you're a Pisces, you don't learn in traditional ways,
Yeah.
more visual.
Share that with everybody. I didn't hear you.
No, I was saying because she's a Pisces, that she's very visual. She wouldn't learn as well in traditional ways.
That's
Right.
good. That's good. See how much talent there is there? I mean, really, it's amazing, isn't it? And I learn from you too. You think it's just up here, I'm doing this. I'm listening, I'm learning so much from you. Okay, on the subject of speech, Mars affecting Mercury, we talked about that. Stuttering and tendency to talk very fast. I still do it, don't I? Talk fast. My chart has Mars squaring Mercury. We did all that, I don't need that. Good news is if you learn to work with your Saturn rather than fight the lessons, you get major payoff. Saturn is the taskmaster, stern but fair. Okay.
Yeah, the path of least resistance.
Yeah, I fought my return. That was
Least
rough.
resistance.
Wow.
Have acceptance for everything.
Yeah, that's back to spiritual judo. If someone attacks me, I learned in judo to take their energy and let them go with it further to the ground. And let them fall, let them do what they must do. Instead of stopping, blocking them and getting hurt, I knew a guy and I was at a psychic fair one time. And somebody says, Ron, this guy that had married, he was a minister, he said, I want you to meet somebody. And he brings over this guy, Bud McGee, and he says, you two should get to know each other. And I thought, and so I'm looking at him and I'm seeing something strange. I see strength in him and I see something unusual. And, he's not real open at first. And I said, Bud, I said, you look so strong. You look like you're into I said it to him, you're into martial arts or what? And he just brightened up right away. He said, yes, I am. And he said, I don't know what to do, what I've discovered. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, I've learned how to take any kind of blow without any injuries.
It seems like he must have been a physical intuitive.
He was, or I was?
A physical intuitive is when you can, like really good dancers are physical intuitives. Their bodies actually move with energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he said this. He said, I can talk about it all day, but he said I can show it to you. And behind him was a guy with a bald head. He looked like Mr. Clean in the commercials, and he was a big Iranian, big man. And he's standing off the side, and he said, "That's my friend." He said, "It's easier I show you what I've discovered." He said, "I don't know what to do with it." He says, "Because it's amazing." So he takes me back into the area behind the chairs and tables where everybody's doing psychic stuff. And he takes me into this back where they had coffee and stuff, and he says, "Let me show you." And he does some breathing, a little bit of breathing, kind of intense breathing. And he gets down like this, and his friend, big brute of a man, he tells him, "Come on over." And so he comes over and he kicks him in the balls. It would lift you off the ground, but he takes the blow. Then he goes like this, and this guy hits him with a karate chop across the throat, which would kill you. Nothing happens. And then he lets him hit him, all his strength, in the temple. The guy hits him as hard as he can. Nothing happens. I said, "What's going on, bud? How are you doing this?" He said, "Well, I've learned something." He said, "I've learned that, energy only hurts and causes problems when we don't accept it, we don't embrace it." I said, "Come on, what do you mean?" He said, "Well," he said, "if I resist it," he said, "what will happen is I'll get an injury." He said, "I accept that energy and let it go through my body." I said, "Come on, nobody can do that." I said, "It takes a couple pounds, to destroy the larynx. You can hit them, it's part of martial arts. You can do terrible things to people." He said, "No," he said, I've learned that I can't." I said, "Well, do you want to demonstrate this to everybody here? We'll put on a show for him." And we did. And named Bud McGee, guy from Elkhart, Indiana, country kind of boy, didn't know what to do with it. He said, "I don't know if I'm supposed to go to the movies with it, or I don't want to misuse it," but he said, "I know I've learned something." And he taught his friend to do the same thing. That big Persian guy, he took the same blows in front of me. I couldn't believe it. Kicked him in the stomach and the solar plexus, did everything to him. And but he learned to embrace it. I experienced it one time in my life, only once. I was in a dental chair, and I was able to do it. I was able to embrace the pain, and I learned what masochism is. I did. I began to understand that why people can be masochistic and want to be hurt, because I was embracing the pain in the dental chair, and I thought, that's amazing. It works, you know. But instead of resisting, just embrace it and love it. You see what I mean?
This is so weird because you just brought up something that happened to me last night when I was going to bed. The room was dark and I walked to the bed and I walked really hard into the hardwood bed, and I laid down. I said, listen, this is not a big deal. I'm not hurt. I'm fine. And I really took a moment to actually think about that, and I forgot about it. And now you just reminded me, like, I don't even have a bruise. I completely forgot about it, and I whacked it hard.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's so much we don't know about our bodies and what we can do. I remember in prison, I used to wear sandals like this, and I'd walk out in the grassy areas. And one day, this is a strange story. I drag up a bee into my sandal, and it stings me on my toe. And I cursed, son of a bitch, you know. And that hurt for so long, it didn't go away. It happened to me the next time. I remember thinking at the time, I shouldn't have cursed that, you know. I only caused more problems. I didn't do what I know. I swear to God, I went back out and I got another bee in my other foot. Same situation.
Wow.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm going to teach you a lesson, Ron.
Yes.
And the bee stings me again, and I said, praise God, thank you. Honestly, God, it didn't bother me anymore. I didn't have any side effects from it. Didn't even have any swelling. I thought, how can that be? Was it all in the response?
How could it be?
Pun intended. How could it be? I like that. But see, your ability to see that pun is part of the gift of an astrologist. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it's seeing connections on different levels. And that little gift of understanding puns, to me, is a sign of a person that has an astute ability to be a good astrologer. Little things, they're signals to me, okay? This room's amazing, you know? You're phenomenal on the radio, on TV. She was amazing, wasn't she?
Me? I wasn't on TV.
Huh?
Rose. I wasn't on.
Huh?
Rose. On the radio show?
On TV.
With Denise?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Rose.
Yeah, they said she was phenomenal. I'm sorry.
You're looking at me.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. But no, you were just phenomenal,
Yeah,
you know? So quick and so articulate, and she complimented you so much, you know? I mean, she kept the flow going. It was amazing watching the show, you know? So what I think is that we have abilities to communicate to people in such a large way with TV and radio. I did it for years. I did it for so many years. And it's something that we need to really be out there and letting people understand and learn these things, you know? Anyway, so let's keep moving here. We got a person with Saturn in the 4th house, rules early childhood in the home. In Aries, conflict, for example. I had a very hard childhood with much abuse and deprivation, a broken home. I have Saturn in my 4th house, okay? Rarely, if ever, praised, but always criticized. Saturn, the accuser of his brother. I was brought up with constant criticism, all the time, okay?
Is there a time where Saturn in the 4th could be positive?
It can and it is, okay? By the way,
In Aries, it's bad.
Because it's
hard.
detriment in
Yeah,
Aries,
exactly.
yeah. So if
Good.
it was like Capricorn, it'd be good.
see, you see that, you know,
Yeah.
that's the back to this ability to see all this. So what we're dealing with is the energies. In my case, I haven't got Saturn really hard afflicted in my chart. It's squaring my Pluto though. Okay. So when we're doing these charts, see, now I value the lesson more than the misery I had as a child. I learned to be stoic in the face of the hardships and determined to praise and thanksgiving in my life and home. I learned to love myself and others and to spend my life teaching the power of praise and thanksgiving and to cast out the accusing spirit that is so destructive and injurious. So in a way, even though, you know, Saturn's in Aries, it's a difficult place for it, it's detrimental to the, how would I say this? It's like I expose all of the stuff about Saturn. I bring I take his bite out, so to speak. because he's not powerful in Aries.
Yeah.
And you see, and so that's a positive side of the negative. In other words, you say, oh, it's a detriment, it's bad. It's not necessarily, it means that he doesn't have the power in my chart.
He can't fully express his power in that.
Very good, that's it, yeah. Okay, so,
Well, I thought it was, because it's in fall, that it's merged with the aggressive, angry energy of Mars, and so it can actually exacerbate Saturn's negative qualities, I guess you'd say.
I think so. I think that's accurate. The thing is that what I've done with it is, I experienced so much pain my early childhood. That's fourth house too, you know that.
Yeah.
So, and all those things that I experienced, the accusing all my life, someday, Ron, you're going to end up in prison from my stepmother. She was very accurate, right? Was she accurate, or was she helped produce that because she put that in my mind? But the point being is that all of the knowledge that Saturn has to teach me about its negative side and about all the things that it can do has allowed me to unmask it too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure that means much.
No, I mean, you were able to overcome it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, Saturn position in a particular house of your natal chart significantly alters the characteristic of that house. Saturn has a powerful life altering influence. We define Saturn as reality. Reality may be limiting, but at the same time it provides structure to our lives. It can bring hard lessons and testing, but teaches patience and fortitude. Okay? So, this is something that, to see the positive side of Saturn. When I first started getting into this and teaching and learning, I only saw the negative side of Saturn. I didn't recognize the power of Saturn in terms of resurrecting, raising up the Kundalini, for example. Understanding the Kundalini force is Satan, the serpent force on the staff of the spine. And that one day after I wrote my book, I realized what I was reading when I said the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, Father time, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name.
Your ground chakra.
There you go. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Heaven's within. What's exactly?
It's manifesting and creating.
Exactly. See, so all of a sudden oh my God, I'm reading the Lord's Prayer, and that's what it's trying to tell us. The discipline of the early Christians, that they were disciples. Disciples of what? The yogic experience of raising up the Kundalini. When the woman touched Christ's hem of his garment, he turned around and he said, "Who touched me? For I behold virtue has gone out of me." What has gone out of him? All that stored virtue and Saturn is, one of the words for Saturn is virtuous. Did you know that?
It's really interesting though, what that last part you said, because when you have a Kundalini awakening, it's this heat at the base of your spine, and the only way it can actually go up through you is to get these blocks out of your chakras, which means healing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, Saturn rules the spine, the skeletal frame. I never thought about it in that connection either.
Well, I've had a Kundalini awakening, but I haven't researched it very much, so this is making a lot of sense.
I did too when I was in prison. Amazing effect on me. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I understood. And I read a book and say people that have this effect, the food tastes like ashes in their mouth. Well, that happened to me. I mean, for two weeks, anything I put in my mouth tastes like ashes. Couldn't understand
It
it.
was interesting when the girl, I remember that was commenting on the show, she was like, stuff I eat makes me sick and things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting too. But the Kundalini is supposed to bring out your pure life force creativity.
Exactly.
And so like whenever I'm really engaged in something I'm passionate about that I'm supposed to do, the Kundalini starts waking up and I can feel it moving up my spine.
Yeah, that's exactly
And
what
so
it is.
in
Yeah.
order to actually move into that space, you do have to get rid of all your fear, which creates the blocks.
Yeah,
Fear is
I like
the opposite of
it.
love.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I know we're dealing with energies, and this is the most profound energy there is. If all things, if all things work together for good, if the devil unwittingly is but the servant of God, that energy is in us. You can use it. It's not about all bad. It's not about the devil underneath our bed. It's not about the boogeyman. You know what I'm saying? It's about understanding that whole thing. And knowing that the key word of Capricorn is what?
I use.
I use.
Oh, yeah.
I use. And what are we going to do? We're going to use that energy for what?
Good.
To achieve the highest crown chakra energy there is. Raising up of the serpent.
All of you.
So we're really, there's so much. You see why? I mean, you think about all this. How much knowledge is there in all this that people just have no concept of? I mean, it's just, to me, it's amazing. Saturn influence make you work, take care of your responsibilities and fit into society. Saturn is the antidote to Uranus's creative change and Neptune's fantasies. Now, isn't that nice?
All balances.
Saturn influences may be used to put in the effort, organize and implement creative change. One's deepest dreams and fantasies can come true by what? Embracing Saturn and putting in required time and effort. Without it, you don't get anywhere. You don't have the discipline. Okay? It's like you said, you have Saturn rising in the chart. That gives you that discipline. It gives you that, I am discipline. I am first house, Saturn.
Oh, it's in my 12th house.
Huh?
It's in my 12th house.
What is?
Saturn. It's conjunct my ascendant.
But it's conjunct your ascendant.
Yeah, but
so
it's still in my...
carries that energy
It
there,
does,
see?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, Saturn afflicted in a chart by aspect, especially by Mars and or Pluto, can bring hard lessons, very often physical injury or chronic pain. For example, Saturn in Aries may, as I had, give rise to headaches or blows to the head. I had that happen to me in my life. I mean, I used to get terrible headaches too, sinus headaches. Oh, for years and years. So Saturn causes problems with congestion and blockage. Having this position in my own chart, experiencing all these things, you know. So yes.
I just want to share. I have Saturn opposite the ruler of my chart. My ascendant is Sagittarius, so it's opposite my Jupiter. And I've had like issues related to, it's an Aquarius, so I've had issues related to both the Aquarius and the Jupiter body parts. So for example, the Aquarius rules the lower legs, and I've had chronic lower leg issues. Jupiter rules the hips. I've had chronic hip issues.
Wow, really?
And they've all been related to like the structure of my body and the cartilage.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So wait, it conjuncts your descendant then?
No, it's Jupiter is the ruler of my ascendant, and they're opposite each other, but Jupiter is in my 8th house.
Wait, okay.
Yeah, so Saturn's in my 2nd.
Oh, I see.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
But to see those connections.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. There's so much here. It's just, this is, I've taught for years. I've had students, I've had literally thousands of units of students over the years. This may be the most profoundly knowledgeable group I've ever taught. And every now and then I find a gem of a student, you know, and I know they're going to go on to great things with it. Karen, who's joining us, actually, she's in Newfoundland right here. She's watching the whole show here. We've set it up so get the camera right in front of us now instead of like last week. She's one of the most brightest astrology students I've ever experienced in my life. She's constantly, she goes to bed thinking about doing it. You know what I mean? Her life is now astrology. But it takes that. I remember when I was in prison, I had a lot of, because I'm very curious and interested in a lot of things, I had a lot of things that I could have studied. I remember I could have studied, I was really interested in palmistry. I was interested in handwriting analysis. I was interested in numerology. Because all these are kind of related too, in a way. I also found the tarot cards and the cards interesting. All those things were of interest to me. But I knew that if I kept digging little holes over here and over there and over there, I'd never reach the deep water that I wanted to get to. So I always stayed focused on my astrology because I knew that it'd take me the deepest levels I could understand. And my prayer in prison was that God give me the gift of the wisdom of Solomon. That was my real prayer. People have different prayers in life. That was my most earnest prayer. Give me the wisdom of Solomon. And I don't think I have it, but that's what I prayed for. I wanted to have wisdom like that. And I valued that above all things, you know, the wisdom. And it's guided me to a lot of truths. You know, I've uncovered so much with those years of study. Okay. Saturn skeletal frame. One of the reasons Father Time is depicted as skeletal, since Saturn or Cronus rules the teeth, the bones, in other words, the skeletal frame. Any affliction to Saturn as a chart may result in problems there. Note the hourglass, okay? I mean, just like you said with the Saturn afflictions, I mean, it can produce so many problems. Very often, if you have Saturn right on the ascendant, which you have an influence,
Yes.
it can produce, which it didn't with you. I have to look at the reasons for that. Very often there's some deformity, forgive me, you don't have that.
On my bone structure? No, it's okay. My ears maybe, or like.
Are your ears deformed?
I think so.
Why?
Very small.
Can I see?
Yeah. they're not. No, yeah, they're not the same.
so hard.
I don't know, but deformed like I would like bones.
Yeah,
Maybe my bones.
yeah.
I feel like I'm very short. I'm small. I have a small frame. I have difficulty doing. Thank you. No, I just have a hard time doing a lot of other things physically, like other people do. So
Okay.
for me to play sports, for me to do, I have a harder time because
Yeah.
I'm smaller. If I run a lot, I end up spraining my ankles.
Saturn, that's all Saturn.
That's what that is, and I know, but it's very.
And it
difficult
also
for me.
produces dwarfism.
Yeah, on
And
the
you
ascendant.
describe yourself as being too small.
I'm very. I'm
But
just very
yeah,
short.
most women would love to have your petite little form.
Thank you, but
I mean-
I want to be tall. I wish
Huh?
I was taller. I really do. I wish I was taller, but because it's silly, but it does get in the way for me sometimes. Certain things being
But
short.
see how
Being
it's
tall can
what an
get in the
amazing
way
group.
too,
What an
though.
amazing
Yeah.
group.
Yeah.
And
It
self-revealing group. I mean, you know what I mean?
But my Saturn sextiles Venus and it sextiles my Sun.
Which gives beauty too.
Yeah.
Sextiles Venus.
Venus, yeah, and then what does it also do? Saturn. It also conjuncts my ascendant, and then I mean and I think it does something with it also sextiles my midheaven, so things like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good energies there.
That's why Saturn works with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this is amazing. You don't have your chart at all? You don't have a chart?
Well, I have my chart on my phone and I'm looking back.
Okay,
and
good.
referencing
Because
it.
I'm feeling guilty because I didn't get to your chart.
Yeah.
But we'll get that. I don't want to feel guilty. Okay, so depicted skeleton. Okay, the affliction Saturn chart may result in problems there. Saturn and Mars, when afflicted by aspect, can cause injury or arthritic pain in the joints and bones. The person may have extreme teeth sensitivity at hot and cold. In the days before modern dentistry, a very Saturnine profession, by the way, dentistry is.
I hate that. I hate the dentist actually.
Yeah.
Like I'm horrified. I don't.
You're not alone.
It wasn't common for people. I think you and I, yeah, all of us do. I think. Yeah. So it wasn't uncommon for people to endure great pain and disfigurement with dental problems in less developed parts of the world. In fact, today it's true. You know, a lot of people have a lot of problems. Today we're very blessed, you know, that we can go to a dentist and get almost anything fixed and made it beautiful again. But the same aspect can be handled well if one exercises regularly and develops strength and stamina by challenging the muscular frame, Mars Saturn afflictions, by the way, against Mars against the skeletal frame Saturn. This aspect can give great strength. It demands dynamic tension and stress. It can give extraordinary strength. My wife's got that square. She is the strongest woman. I mean, she is physically strong, like unbelievable. I mean, really, she could kick my butt, you know? She is amazing, especially with it, she used her feet, she'd be, but she is very athletic and she needs to exercise. And I noticed yesterday when we got in a little tiff and I was giving her a bad time, she went and got on the bike and took off and went to the park, you know, but she needs, part of it is because she needs to release that tension and that anger, Mars, and the depression, Saturn. If she doesn't get out there and do that, when you have a chart with a Mars-Saturn affliction, it's very important you teach them that they need to release that energy through a positive expression, whether it's yoga or exercise or something. And you got to challenge that muscular Mars frame against that Saturn skeletal frame. Otherwise, it's going to turn into anger and depression. Make sense? All right. Okay, people with Saturn Mars stress aspects tend towards restless, depression, Saturn, unless they find an outlet for this, which we just talked about, through work exit. This aspect can make for a very hard worker who puts extreme energy, Mars, into their overcoming of obstacles. For example, a weight, Saturn lifter would characterize the expression of this energy. My wife's one of the hardest workers I've ever met. She is the most dedicated, hard. She'll go out and work in this garden out here, just a little bit of garden we have. Wherever we go, she brings beauty and hard work to, you know. She's amazing woman. I mean, anyway, I love her.
I
so
noticed for me, because of my Mars opposed to Saturn, it's a lot of stop-go energy. That there'll be times where you're just so motivated and you keep going, and then other times you just,
kind of pull
nothing's
back.
happening.
Yeah, that's good. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. That opposition particularly is that way, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, right now I have that transit. Mars opposed my Saturn. It's really annoying. But yeah, it's temporary. But I have that right now, and I feel it.
A person with Saturn can also be bad with weight and have compulsive desire for food unless it's offset by physical work or exercise. I see this aspect in people who fight depression. Saturn with a need for comfort, moon. Saturn and moon is really rough because it shows that people that tend to get depressed easy emotionally and get down with Saturn moon afflictions.
And they do.
And they also look for food. Moon is always, remember, it's the mother.
They look for nurturing.
Nurturing,
Yeah.
exactly. So they always go into that to find some relief from their depression. Okay, so we find also the emotional. The moon usually rules and governs and gets control because the moon is your unconscious. It's your subconscious activity and it's compulsions. Okay. Moon Saturn affections can be compulsive sexually. Okay, we tend to think of Mars as sex and Pluto as sex. Saturn's down and dirty. Forgive me. It can be really that
That's
way.
more emotional than
Yeah.
than physical because it's the moon, right?
Yeah, and often Saturn afflictions creates this kind of a. How can I go there without getting offending anything? It can be. It can bring you into activities that are very self-deprecating and self-hating.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
You get down by your own limitations.
Exactly.
Oh my god, I dated a guy like who had that affliction. I couldn't stand it. Oh my god, so depressing. Always down on himself. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good. I'm like, shut up.
That's what I've noticed. I've met many Capricorn men who have either achieved, amazing like notoriety and like, be like a VP of the company, or the opposite. They're like really down on themselves or they're addicts.
Right.
It's that restriction that they do.
It's so annoying. Sad.
Amazing group. Amazing group, really. You guys are so special. Thank you for blessing my life, my home, by being part of this. I'm so thankful to all of you. I really am. Anyway, okay. The moon rules the child and it needs nurturing like the mother. Moon that gives a crying child the breast milk to comfort. Mars to the moon is very often similar, but the higher activity of the Mars energy often finds itself burning the calories through compulsive moon activity. Mars is much generally more motivated. Okay, Saturn, is heavy, depressed, right? Pressed down, heavy. Remember?
I hate that.
Where love levitates us. Okay,
Yeah.
we say a person that's got a good sense of humor. They have what?
Jovial, like
Jovial, Jupiter. What else they say? They have levity.
Yeah.
Levity.
Yeah. I
They're
feel
big-
like, yeah.
They defy gravity, the grave.
Yeah.
You
But
see?
I guess with the Saturn to moon, like the way out for them would be through service, wouldn't it? Like service and responsibility.
That's a good way to
To
nurture
bring out
others.
I like that.
Yeah.
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 Like,
Devotion.
yeah.
Self-denial. Saturn
Yeah.
is self-denial.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy, right, is one way of seeing Saturn, right? The other side is I will give myself completely in sacrifice.
Right. That's ultimately what the highest manifestation of Saturn is. It's
Beautiful.
responsibility and service.
Yeah. What an amazing group, you guys. Anyway, so I could sit at your feet, quite frankly. I could. You're so amazing, all of you. Anyway, I keep going and stop all this. Okay, high activity Mars, okay? Scary Grim Reaper, right? In ancient Greece, Gaia and Uranus were Cronus' parents. Uranus, fearful of his children, including Cronos, kept them constrained inside Gaia. Gaia wished to free her children and decided to give Cronos a sickle. With this sickle, Cronos eventually castrated his father and bled him to death. Knowing how he has killed his father, once Cronos had children of his own, he feared his own fate would be the same. As each child was born, he swallowed them one by one. From ancient folklore and other anthropological sources, it's believed that Cronos was a harvesting god, worshipped by a culture before the Greeks. It's understood that his sickle was used in harvesting grain. Harvest was also associated with death because it signaled the end of the growing season and the beginning of winter. Time devoured all of things were represented poetically by Kronos, eating his own children. It was the Greeks' very dramatic way of saying nothing lasts forever. The Grim Reaper wielded a sickle, and at times an hourglass is directly derived from Kronos. One must understand how important grain was to these ancient civilizations. How horrible the thought of some mystic creature with the power to swipe away their whole harvest with a single swing of their mighty sickle. Not to mention the flocks of famished crows which would accompany such a terrible figure. Now, if you look at Job's, things that happened to Job, he lost everything, his crops, his everything. Everything could be destroyed was destroyed, which is Saturn's work. You see, particularly the grains and the famines and the pestilences of all. That's all Saturn stuff, okay? Think about that, okay? Disaster, discord in the stars. Huh? Wow. We talked about that the other day, remember? What did we talk about? About some of the words? Saturn?
Yeah.
What were some of those words?
Sadistic.
Pandora, remember? What is Pandora's box? What did it release upon mankind? Pestilence, disease. That's Saturn stuff. You see, Pandora, the goat god, pandemic.
Pandemic.
Okay.
Say jinx.
Yeah, and panorama, actually. I was doing a chart one time with one of my students, and before they came, I did all their charts, and one of them walked in, I said, one of them I told, wow, I remember this in Boston, honey?
Yeah.
One of them I said, you're a landscape architect.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember that?
Abby was a,
Abby, she freaked out. How do you know that?
Yeah, you said that. He has
Lands-
like architecture and landscape. And she said, that's right. She said,
That was what her degree was,
landscape
but she never used it. She married a very wealthy man. Very wealthy man. She took us to the finest of operas and different shows. She was amazing. And we always went with her to the private area where all the big donors were wine and dined, you know what I mean? Abby, she's an amazing woman. But I saw it because I saw Saturn was so strong in her chart. I couldn't remember today. People say, well, do you remember the aspects? No, I don't. I just remember the message, you know? And, but Saturn would tell me, did he get you? Did he get you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I had a nice little shower.
Yeah. Saturn, come over here.
Fine.
Zeus,
Oh, no, it's fine.
Zeus, come over here. Lay down. You're gonna lay down there? Lay down. Plots. That's good. Good. That's good. So landscape. I mean, because scapegoat. You know the words landscape, scapegoat. There's something about landscape and something that connected to this whole thing, Saturn.
Wow, and you can see that. That's
Yeah,
so
I
cool.
get it. But it's the ability to see these connections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why you're a good astrologist, because you could see all these connections. And things will speak to you and say, landscape. She's got a degree in landscape. How did I know that, you know? There was another student in the class. Do you remember what she was? I said she was famous or something. Remember dancer? Oh, remember?
Katie, she's a prima ballerina.
Yeah, would you remember that?
I don't remember what she
Yeah, but I saw in her chart. I said, you're very almost famous with your work and your dancer. And she said, was she from Iran?
No,
She went there to Iran.
They had a performance in Iran when they had to put a top.
She's a ballerina.
Boston Ballet, she teaches ballet at Boston.
Yeah.
Boston Ballet.
And she married a great guy. He's
You advised her to marry him.
huh?
You advised her.
I didn't hear you.
Astrologer, that's why you advised her to marry him.
I know. Yeah. Well, of course he's a great guy. Advisor of marriage.
In archaeology.
He's an archaeologist.
Professor of archaeology.
He's been on TV on Discovery Channel. You know where he does all this archaeological connections between the
Civilizations.
Civiliz-
From Turkey, he loves Turkey, goes there and does excavations.
My wife's the memory bank for all this.
Yeah.
It's Saturn squaring the Mars.
Yeah.
That's a good thing about living in the past, you remember?
Yeah.
Something has to be.
Now, isn't that a beautiful woman? Tell me, isn't she beautiful?
Absolutely.
She is really. I mean, I'm not being. It's not just my. She is gorgeous,
I have
isn't
those things ready, the vegetarian patties.
she? You guys. Oh, she made some patties, some vegetarian patties. If you want, let's take a little break and then we'll come back. All right.